Okay, we're going to get started. Thank you for being here, members of the public, members of the media. This is our flood briefing for the city of Cedar Rapids flood situation for 2016. I'm Jeff Pomerantz. I'm city manager of the city of Cedar Rapids. I'm joined by an interpreter for the deaf. It's our intent, by having these press conferences as well as a council briefing prior to the press conference that's open to the public and obviously open to the media. It's our intent to communicate as clearly and as openly as possible regarding status, regarding our flood situation with the entire community. So thank you for being here, and also thank you for the many individuals who have expressed thanks for having these press conferences and council briefings on a daily basis. I'm joined back of me is our Mayor Ron Corbett, Mayor of Cedar Rapids, and the Cedar Rapids City Council. I have acknowledged every press conference the efforts of the mayor and the city council because of the importance of leadership at a time like this, and in addition to the hard work of our city employees, of all of our partners, public and private. The mayor and city council members have provided great support and leadership during this challenging time, and we've achieved a good deal of success, somewhat with a bit of cooperation from Mother Nature as far as the extent of the event, but that success would not be occurring without everybody working together, mayor, council, staff, public and private partners. I particularly wanted to acknowledge the many contractors that have assisted the city of Cedar Rapids in building our temporary flood protection. We work with our contractors on a regular basis for city projects, but this was truly a unique situation. The building of almost 10 miles of temporary walls, barriers and berms and earthen structures did not happen easily, but most importantly, it didn't happen with the city working alone. And really the contractors that helped us took great pride, and one of our public works employees told me it was like they were city employees for a couple of days, and took great pride and still are coming back now. And we're also going to need those same individuals for the deconstruction of the temporary system as well as the cleanup. But I think it's very important to acknowledge that we're not in this alone. I also wanted to thank the members of the media. The coverage has been excellent, and we've seen local coverage, statewide coverage, but coverage throughout the nation. And we very much consider this to be a partnership at critical times such as this to get the information out to the public. So thank you to the media. Once again, I want to stress that we're not finished yet. The water's receding, but it's going down very slowly, as has been reported. An extremely large amount of water continues to put pressure on our system and on the temporary measures that we have put in place. We're expecting to reach the critical 18-foot mark on Thursday at approximately 6 p.m. That's when everyone up here, along with me and our city workers and those assisting us, will breathe that great sigh of relief. And many of our city workers and partners will be able to get that critical sleep once again and rest. But until that occurs, the city of Cedar Rapids is on the job. We're working hard, and we're doing our very, very best to make sure that all the work that we put in to building this temporary system that has done such a great job in protecting our city remains stable. And city employees and again others have worked around the clock, even as the waters have receded, to make sure that there are no failures of of that system. Our goal is to get our citizens and our businesses back into the area as quickly as possible, while also maintaining the safety for our residents and our workers. And at this point, the conversation has changed. So the most frequently asked question is probably, when can we get back? And that is certainly our goal. And our goal is to communicate when that can occur. And we do have some good news this morning. With the crest going down, we're ready to move some citizens, businesses back into the outside area of the evacuation zone. We had almost 6,000 homes and businesses in the original evacuation area. And our measures this morning, we're announcing, will allow around 2,500 individuals and businesses to return. I'm now going to ask Steve O'Connick. Steve is a captain in our police department who's been very much involved in the incident command center that was set up, to talk about exactly who's going to be allowed to move back immediately, and how that's going to work, and the logistics regarding that decision. We know that there'll be others that will say, well, I'm not on that list. I don't see my property on that map. And I can assure everyone that we're going to move as quickly as possible. Again, as the water recedes and we get to that 18-foot level, I think there'll be good news for the entire community. So give us some patience, but we will be communicating. We'll be doing that on our website. We'll be doing that on various forms of social media through Cedar Rapids media and statewide media, giving you more information. But for this first wave of individuals and businesses that are able to return, I'd like to call on Captain Steve O'Connick.
Thanks, Jeff. I'm Steve O'Connick, captain with Cedar Rapids Police Department. It's been my job over the last few days to work with an enormously talented group of individuals in the incident command post and managing this incident, from Public Works to our Linn County EOC partners, the Sheriff's Department, the State Patrol, our National Guard partners. It's been an amazing effort, and I just want to take a second to acknowledge the hard work that they've done. I get to stand here and talk today, but it's because of the hard work that they've done over the last few days. As Jeff mentioned, we plan to move as many people back into their homes and residences as possible. The plans that we put in place allow the area that was originally bounded at 28 feet to now be restricted down back to the 24-foot flood inundation level. We mentioned early on that we always plan 2 feet higher than the potential catastrophe. That gives us a buffer room, and it gives us some room to react. So this move today really opens up those homes and businesses that have been out of their comfort zone for the last few days to kind of get back in and get readjusted and reoccupy. While we reduce the evacuation zone and it looks like the projections, the water is going down, we're still very concerned about the fact that this right now today is still the third highest level possible flood Cedar Rapids could ever endure. So while that's a good step in the right direction to open the properties, we recognize, and I want the public to recognize, that this is still an emergency situation, and while we think things are going to go well, we still have a potential problem. Residents that are in the 24-foot evacuation zone, and that map's available on our website, it's available on the wall over there, are still advised not to be there. It's still dangerous. You still could have some hazards that we're not aware of. So if you're in that 24-foot evacuation zone, we strongly recommend that you not go there, and if you do so at your own risk. We've moved our barricades overnight from the 28-foot level back to the 24-foot level. So you'll see guardsmen have moved from that location back to the 24. If you don't look at a map or you don't go to the website and you think you're trying to get back to your house and you run into one of those checkpoints, ask if you can get there. If you're in that 24-foot zone and you don't have a map, they'll stop you and tell you you can't go there. Officers, overnight, we know that people may have evacuated between the 24-foot zone and the 28-foot zone. We know that people may have evacuated their homes. So we continue to provide police patrols and police presence in those areas until those homes are reoccupied. So everyone knows, we have not entered any of those homes. We don't plan to enter any of those homes. So if you see your property is unsecure and you left it that way, please call us immediately. We need to go check that out. As I mentioned, we'll continue our police patrols in that area. But again, I want to emphasize what others have said. The evacuation zone is not safe. If you go to your property that's in that zone that's been opened up, and we don't think there's any exterior damage at those homes, but we haven't gone inside. So if you go inside and there may be water or water in the basement, we'd ask you to take a few steps. First, make sure that there's no electricity that would cause you to be electrocuted in that water. So contact Alliant or contact Mid-American or contact those folks if you think that hazard's present, and they'll respond. Please make sure that you're safe in doing so. If there's water in your basement, you need to hire a contractor. You'll need to hire a state of Iowa licensed contractor to repair any damage both below or before it's safe to enter in those locations. We encourage you to get referrals from your friends or on contractors. If you're uncertain about the contractor that you've identified, the city has established a phone line and will verify that the contractor is properly registered and licensed by the state of Iowa. The phone number that you can call is area code 319-286-5929, and that line is active now. This is not a contractor referral, but merely a verification of if that contractor is state licensed. The contractor must obtain the flood permit from the city to make any repairs. The mayor has waived the fee for flood permits, which will be issued on all repairs within the flood inundation level. Upon completion of the work, the city inspector will inspect the work and determine if it is safe, and will provide a release number for Alliant Energy and Mid-America to turn utilities back on. So what's going to happen between now and in the days ahead? We're holding a 24-foot line because we have many flood protection measures in place. It took several days to install those measures. It will take us several days to remove them. In that time, we will be removing HESCO barriers, earthen berms. We'll be removing some of our flood protection measures in there. And we want to hold that 24-foot line to give our contractors, our public employees a safe space to work without having traffic and public interfering with their efforts. We know anytime we're moving around heavy equipment and the public's not aware of it, they could get run over. Knock on wood, we've been successful today not having any fatalities or major injuries as a result of this. We want to see that through until this water goes back to its original level. We will be doing drive-by inspections of properties to determine if the structures are sound and safe to enter. We, the police department of the city, will not be entering structures unless there is a immediate life safety issue that we need to address. We will not be entering properties. We learned our lesson in 2008. We're not going to repeat that lesson here today. The public can help us best by being respectful of the work that's being done, staying away from the flood protection measures, and staying out of the area where the contractors are working to remove those measures. Stand here and I tell you this from my heart. We will get you back into your businesses and your residences just as soon as it's safe to do so. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Steve. And we'll be following the same format as the past. I'll be calling up each of the individual directors where appropriate. We will then have comments by Mayor Ron Corbett, and we'll then allow time for questions and comments by any other partners such as the Red Cross. Next, I'd like to call our Public Works Director, Jen Winter.
morning. Our engineers, crews, and contractors again continued to work through the night and to monitor the system 24 hours to maintain and keep the temporary system functioning. As the city manager mentioned, the river is currently about 20.7 feet. It continues to drop, but as the city manager mentioned, we need to remember that we are still in a critical situation. For example, the level of the river is still 3 feet higher than pretty much all of Newbo. We expect the river elevation to be under 18 feet tomorrow late afternoon or early evening, and below our major flood stage of 16 feet sometime Friday morning. We do continue to take on water behind the system from storm sewers, from seepage through the berms and through the HESCO barriers. The city currently has over 50 pumps up and running. We continue to man these 24 hours to make sure that these pumps keep running and that we are able to get the water back into the river. The bridges downtown will have to remain closed until the water recedes, and we are able to remove the HESCO barriers, and most importantly, we need to be able to inspect the bridges. That will be a top priority once the river returns to its banks, and we will open all streets as soon as we can. We will post the latest openings on the city's website, and we will also be sending out media releases. And finally, as we look ahead, as the floodwaters recede and we are able to deconstruct the system, we are evaluating the benefit of leaving some parts of this temporary system in place. For the HESCOs and the parts of the system that we cannot leave in place, we plan to make use of all of the material that was used, as our goal is always to minimize disposal to the landfill. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. I'd like to call on Chief English, our fire chief.
Good morning. Thank you for coming. Again, I'm Mark English, Fire Chief, Cedar Rapids. As I've said at every one of these briefings, safety is our number one priority. And we have areas that are very dangerous still. As Jen just said, Newbo is 3 feet below the current river level. So as Captain O'Connick said also, and others, please stay out of those areas. They are still very dangerous. Stay out of the evacuated areas. Captain O'Connick, as he stated, he's part of the incident management team at the incident command post. I keep mentioning that they're in a 24-hour operation. They still are. And I've said before, and I'll say it again, please feel very confident. These are highly trained, highly educated, highly professional people managing this incident. They are the ones behind the scenes that have helped coordinate this to give us the success we have at this time. We're going to open up the left lane of I-380 to help traffic flow, but please be aware, if you're in that left lane, be watching your rear view mirror if you see emergency vehicles coming upon you. Our police, fire, and area ambulance are still running emergency calls, and not to be over dramatic, but their ability to get to those calls and get to the hospitals could be a matter of life and death, so please yield to the emergency vehicles. Upon mentioning the hospitals, be aware also both hospitals are open and receiving patients. And the last thing I wanted to let you know is just, again, be safe, stay out of those areas, and let's continue with the safety record we have so far until this is over. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Wayne German, our police chief.
Good morning. Thanks for coming again. Overnight, we reported another quiet night thanks to the National Guard, the allied agencies that have responded to our request, and our own Cedar Rapids Police Department personnel. We know everyone is very anxious to have their lives return to normal and get back to their homes and businesses. But please remember, as long as streets and bridges remain closed, traffic around the downtown area is going to remain very difficult. We encourage businesses that are no longer in this evacuation area from last week, the 28 to 24-foot area. We encourage them to use the next few days to begin moving back into their businesses and moving furniture and other items that were moved for safety reasons back into these businesses. Our library has been closed for the last few days. and now they are out of the new evacuation zone. Library staff will now use the next few days to begin moving books and furniture back into the facility, the first floor area, and they plan to open back to full operation next week. This will help them get their employees back to work and also prepare for their full operation and opening next week. We hope that other businesses in the city will follow similar measures and consider a plan in order to keep traffic and pedestrians out of danger until all roads are able to be opened, hopefully over this weekend. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. I also wanted to acknowledge that we have a number of partners in the audience today that deal with utilities, primarily Alliant Energy and Mid-American Energy. We will not be calling those entities up today, but they've indicated they will stay after the press conference. So if there's anyone that has any specific questions from Mid-American or Alliant, they will both be available, and their individual websites as well as the city website will have information regarding status of utilities when new information becomes available. Now I'm going to call on Steve Hirschner, the Utilities Director. Steve will obviously be talking to us about the status of our water facilities and our wastewater facilities, but he also has another responsibility, and that has to do with the removal of debris, and that's Steve's responsibility on a day-to-day basis. But we've been receiving, and I know there are lots of questions out there about sandbags and how to dispose of those, and Jen Winter touched on that, but Steve will be giving some information today that will then be, again, always followed up on cedar-rapids.org. Steve Hirschman.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to say that our water utility, or drinking water utility, is operating normally. But as we wait for river levels to fall, we continue to ask residents to use water wisely. Our water pollution control facility is seeing increased sewer flows from the saturated ground and stormwater that's entered the sewer system. Any reduction in what citizens are sending to the sewer system will help our employees better manage the higher than normal flows we are experiencing at the wastewater treatment plant. Wastewater discharges for the next 24 to 48 hours, especially in our critical areas, critical low areas like Time Check, Czech Village, Downtown, or Newbo, could cause sewage backup in your business or home, or neighboring businesses or homes, and will also contribute to untreated bypass pumping. As Jeff noted, you're now beginning to return to your evacuated homes and businesses. Your attention's going to turn to cleanup. For residents within the evacuated area, we will be providing normal garbage, recycling, and yard waste collection next week starting on Monday, October 3rd. Residents can put out 2 additional 35-gallon bags of household waste for no additional charge. These bags should be placed at the curb with your carts and will be collected on your normal collection day. Priority for our first regular collection pass next week is collecting household refuse that was missed this past week. One thing I can't emphasize enough is please do not put any sandbags, any full sandbags in your collection carts. Our equipment, trucks, and carts are not prepared for that kind of weight. We will be partnering with the contractor to collect these bags separately, and will provide more information about where citizens can place dry and wet bags soon. If you want to dispose of those bags immediately, rather than holding them on your property for our disposal program, you may haul those bags to the Cedar Rapids Linn County Solid Waste Agency. Any flood debris or sandbags taken to the Solid Waste Agency for disposal will be subject to the agency's regular disposal fees. Additional information is available at the agency's website, www.solidwasteagency.org. Citizens can also reuse the sand on site from dry sandbags in a variety of ways. Drying out old latex paint, using for oil spills or for traction during this coming winter. Sand from wet bags can be used in flower gardens or yards. Bags only should be placed in your Garvey cart. More information on how to reuse sand from dry or wet bags is posted on the city's website. We are also working on possible reuse of dry sand for our city streets operations. We are asking industries and businesses, including commercial operations, such as multifamily apartments or condominiums, to handle disposal of their own sandbags and flood debris. We are working with the Economic Alliance to facilitate a disposal process, and sites where they will be handled will be identified soon. As more information becomes available, we will share updates regarding where sandbags should be placed for city collection and timelines for flood debris collection as we move into that next step in the evacuation area. Please continue to check the city's website, Facebook, and Twitter pages for updates. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Again, after the mayor's comments, we'll allow time for questions. So when the mayor came up one of the first days, he was wearing his Navy crew t-shirt and indicating, you know, we were all going to need to work in unison, and a lot of work was before us. There's still work before us, but today he has a beautiful blue suit on and a white shirt and a red tie. And for me anyway, when I saw the mayor this morning, that was a great sigh of relief, indicating that the end of this situation is near. Thank you, Mayor Corbett.
Thank you, Jeff, and good morning to everyone. As you can see, we had a plan going in to the time period before the crest, and we have a plan at the back end as the water recedes. And the operation team has been absolutely flawless in the execution of that plan going into the crest. And one of the reasons is because the citizens of this community have been so cooperative. So as we're working on the back end of this plan of the river receding, we hope that you will be equally as cooperative and let everybody get their jobs done. You know, Cedar Rapids has received a lot of national publicity over the last several days. And I've been interviewed by a lot of reporters that aren't local reporters and radio people that aren't local radio people. And they almost have a sense of disbelief that the community could come together like we did. They're astonished by it in many ways. And they asked me, well, what's so special about Cedar Rapids? And maybe my first response is, well, we're from Cedar scars. Now maybe some of those scars have been covered over by new buildings, but the scars in our mind of 2008 will always be there. We'll never forget people's possessions on the side of the street. Pictures, momentums, heirlooms, possessions, and that claw as it would drive down the street and reach down and crunch all that stuff and lift it in to a dump truck and haul it away to the landfill. Those scars will never be forgotten. And that is one of the motivating factors that I saw from people. They said, oh no, not again. We can't have that. We have to do something. And the other reason, though, is the overwhelming pride in this community over the last 8 years of participating, of witnessing, of experiencing this tremendous recovery of our town to where we're better, stronger, more vibrant than we've ever been. So when you couple that pride that we have from the recovery of 2008 with the scars of 2008, that's what brought everybody together. Everybody. Business, labor, arts, nonprofit, residents, non-residents, east side, west side, young, old, rich, poor. It didn't matter. Everybody came together. And then everybody found a role. Some people monitored the situation. Some people reported on the situation. Some people drove the dump trucks. Some people carried the sandbags. Some people made the meals. And some people gave the hugs. And it was this effort by everyone. And because of that effort, it worked. You did it. You saved your city from the second highest crest this community has ever experienced. Now in these final days, we can't be careless. Councilman Julich gave me a great analogy. I usually come up with my own, but he gave me a great analogy, and he reminded me of that football player who's running with the ball, and just as they're approaching the goal line, they put their hand down, and at the 1 foot line, someone swats the ball out of their hand. But we won this time. We evened the score. In 2008, River versus City, the River won. We got beat bad. We got skunked. Round 2, the City won. The score's now River 1, City 1. We didn't skunk the River this time. We didn't win unanimously. We won. But there's still damage. There's still cost. Cost to put everything together. Cost to tear everything down. There'll be property damage. Economic damage. The cost of everybody moving. And yeah, there's some emotional damage too that can never be measured in dollars and cents. But right now the score's even, 1-1. There'll be a rematch. There'll be that rubber match. I don't know when it will be. It may be next year. It may be 8 years from now. It may not be for several decades. That's why we need to continue to work on both flood mitigation and flood protection. Flood mitigation means continuing to work with landowners north of us on water quality and water quantity issues. Flood mitigation means we may have to acquire a few more properties. And of course, flood protection means building permanent walls and levees so we don't have to go through this again. So over the next few days, let's not be careless. But also, it's okay to feel a little pride because you deserve it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we're going to take this opportunity for questions. Yes.
Yeah, my wife is Debbie Tony Point. Can you tell me, someone talk about these maps, which were just came about from the flood center in the community, and how accurate was that, how helpful was that, and key was that to this picture you just talked about?
So there's a question about the accuracy of the flood information that we've received, particularly relating to the maps. Jen?
These maps are given to us, and we had them on hand so we can evaluate inundation zones for various levels of the river rising. Fortunately for us, we did not have to test the accuracy of these maps in this go-around because we were able to build our temporary system and keep the water. So fortunately, we didn't have to test at this point. We're going to assume that they would have held correct.
Okay, thank you. Other questions? Yes, Mr. Dorman.
What assistance does the city have planned for that handful of businesses that had to be on the west side of the Hesfield areas on the north, I guess the south end of New Road?
The question has to do with what assistance do we have available for the businesses that, due to construction, the temporary system ended up on the wet side. And you know, there's a lot of details we're still working through, and so at this point, my answer would be we're still evaluating what options there are. So thank you. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I'd like to know why nobody from the city council is showing any sympathy for that 13-year-old child that was murdered. Most communities, even during a disaster, will go on camera and send their sympathies with all the tensions we have. And maybe, by the way, you would get belly comment.
Thank you. Thank you for your comment.
You don't get a comment. We have a
Well,
substation up there on First Avenue that not once has been utilized for these children and people to go and gather together and mourn together. They have to do it at the site of the shooting. And the
I got it.
substation was set up.
Okay. This is an opportunity, Mr. Bates. This is an excuse me. This is an opportunity to. Sir, we're here to answer questions regarding the flood of 08, as well as, of course, this most recent 2016 flood. We're not here to answer any other questions or deal with any other statements.
Don't touch me. I haven't done anything wrong. I had a public meeting and I have a right to speak. I have a right to
Okay.
speak. I have a right to speak, sir.
Okay, we're going to adjourn the meeting due to this disruption.